Hey, are you a marketer, but you're new to the manufacturing and industrial space? We're seeing this a lot. Are you maybe sometimes feeling a little overwhelmed or trying to figure out really what's going on? Or maybe you're like, I feel like I'm maybe over my head a little bit in this and I need a little help. Well, this episode is just for you. We're gonna be talking about some tips and some strategies to kind of like lay the foundation on what is going on in this space. Why is it so different? And give some things to help you to really be successful in your new role as a marketer for a manufacturer.
Welcome to IndustrialSage, a free video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is IndustrialSage.
All right, so you've jumped into a new company, and it's a manufacturing company, but you're familiar with manufacturing. I can't tell you how many times I have this conversation with people, on the video or the digital marketing side. We get several conversations in, and then it's like the smoke screen comes down a little bit, and it's like, they're like, yeah, the reality of it is my thing is social, or my thing is paid, or my thing is, content. I don't know email to save my life, or I don't know Google Ads. I know I'm this, but I've been hired to like do all these things, and I'm, they're expecting the world of me, and the whole space is crazy. It's very technical. What is going on? So I'm going to kind of try to very generally lay the foundation about what is going on here. So the first thing, okay, this is one of the big things that it's funny. Like when we would go on the video digital marketing side, if companies didn't know that we're really working with a lot of manufacturers, they try to explain, well, we're a little different in how we sell and everything. Here's the big thing, right? You got a couple different types of manufacturers and industrial companies. You got a manufacturer who's making something, right? Let's say they're making an Omni bearing, all right? An Omni whatever, it's a little bearing, right? And so what they'll do is, instead of selling that directly to a company that says, hey, I need that Omni bearing and I need those, what they'll do is they'll go through distributors or dealers, okay? Maybe one of those two, or maybe they'll have RSMs, like regional sales managers, people that actually there may be independent sales reps, or they may not. So they're kind of a different thing. So distributors or dealers, or they may have independent reps that sell into these different companies. Long story short, the manufacturer themselves are not directly selling to that end user, that customer. Now, blanket statement, that's not happening all the time. A lot of times there's a mixture where it could be 100% distribution, or I'm sorry, it could be like 80% distribution, 20% direct. It just depends. Now, why is it set up that way? Well, the reality of it is that if you're really hyper focused on operations and cranking out product and really just dialing that in, it takes on a lot more added expense and a lot more resources to be able to actually sell that product to the end user. So it's easier for a manufacturer to really scale their business, to build their business and go, a little bit faster. So in other words, if I'm manufacturing these bearings and I can get into 100 different distributors, and those 100 different distributors have, each of them have an average of 500 clients or what have you, customers, then the reach of just getting to those is much bigger than me, not maybe I'm little, not whatever, but me as one manufacturer, I'm not going to have that many salespeople to be able to go out there and sell in and get to all these relationships. So it's just a question of scale, and a lot of these distributors bring in a lot of value to be able to help to get that product over there. So they're going to come in, they're going to bring some marketing help, they're going to bring some technical help. A lot of them will wrap in your product with some of the services they have there or other products. So they really are able to cultivate a relationship with the end user and really help them, use your products as a greater solution. And so it's a really great relationship, and it's a really great partnership that they'll have there. Now, by having that creates a couple different challenges. So it's almost like you have two different clients or customers you have to sell to. So one, you have to think of, as a manufacturer, we kind of need to sell to the distributor or that dealer, right? And you got to think of, well, what challenges does that distributor have? There's different things. They may be repping, they may have complementary or competitive products that are your competitors that they're selling. So it starts becoming this question of, okay, well, wait a minute, what's going to make our product better than our competitors? And there could be 5 other competitors, and they're all selling into the same products. Well, how do we stay in front of them? You got to be thinking in the mind of the distributor. What's going to help them? And yes, obviously, you can try to compete on price. Price is one piece. It's kind of the most obvious and the go-to. But that's sort of a short-term type strategy. You really need to be thinking at it where marketers can help is thinking of added value. How can we help provide more value to that distributor so that our product is rep there? So maybe we have programs, maybe there's education programs, or there's different services that we can wrap around that. For example, maybe as a manufacturer, go in and help put on educational sessions to the end user who they're selling to help them sell those products easier. So, if a distributor, if you're like, hey, I'm Mr. Manufacturer, I'm going to go to the distributor and we're going to put together these programs to help you sell this product, to make your job easier, that's a big win. So that's one of the ways you're seeing there. So you kind of have to look at it a little bit differently in the sense that, one of our targets, one of our personas is the distributor. And what challenges do they have? How can we help solve their challenges? And it can't be this immediate it's all super transactional and, it's all about sales. Yes, it is, but you got to step back and figure out what are their pains? What are their challenges? And those challenges can be across the board. So really evaluating that's one thing. And then the other challenge you have with that is that you also kind of have to market to the end user. So you've got the distributor who's got the relationships, all these other smaller companies because it's B2B, and you got to think of, okay, well, how our product ultimately has to go down the line to this person, but it's got to go through this distributor. But ultimately, this is the person who's going to be using the product. We need to be marketing to them as well. So let me think of a really good example. Somebody told me about this the other day, like forklifts, for example. Forklifts will do that. You've got a forklift manufacturer. I'm not going to say any particular brands. And they go through their local dealers, but they are also marketing to the end user. So the end user, well, they need to figure out, if they're going to buy a whole fleet of forklifts, well, is this going to work with us? What's the size? And, is it going to work in our warehouse? And is it guided? Is it not? And how can we, streamline? What about the energy efficiency? And what about training on how to do all this stuff? They're going to be doing all that research, and they're going to be, looking at the manufacturer website. And then when they go to buy, likely, they'll go through a dealer, or they could go the other way. They could call up a dealer and start, developing there. The short version of that is that, yes, the distributor should be helping to market that, but it's really on the manufacturer to help to provide marketing materials to the distributor to help kind of send downstream to that end user. And also for the manufacturer to be able to be marketing directly to that end user, but buy through that distributor. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So it's kind of, again, you have to kind of think of it a little bit differently. Your marketing material, and when it comes back to marketing, is going to be different. You need to have marketing material that's going to be focused on the distributor, that dealer, or the independent sales reps. And you need to be having marketing material that's going to be different to the end user. Again, the material to the distributor is going to, you almost have to think of it like, what's in it for me as a distributor? Like, okay, why do I want to sell this? The features and the benefits of that product is going to resonate a little bit more with the end user versus maybe the distributor. If you go into, with this, we've got these great added value resources, we're going to help you. We've got a whole educational library that's going to help to train all your salespeople so they can help sell this better. Or maybe there's a branded, let's say, video library of training videos that will brand in the distributor name, so it makes it look really nice and flashy for you, that you can give access to your end users. So, when you sell them that forklift has XYZ distributor branding all over it, and also has the manufacturer's brand on it too, but it makes it look really nice and clean. And so that handoff after you make that sell, it's like, hey, well, we also understand that you're going to have challenges of of training employees, and there's a lot of turnover. So you guys can take this training program to learn how to drive this, and do all these different things. I think you get the point. So It's a little different. That breakdown between manufacturer, distributor, and end user sometimes can trip people up a little bit, and especially when it comes to marketing. It's like, well, wait a minute, can't we just make the same marketing material and send it to everybody? I mean, you can, but the reality of it is, it goes back to understanding your persona and understanding their target, understanding the target market and their pains. What is that pain that they're facing? It's going to be different for the two. Crossover, yes, but it will be different. So, I mean, that's really, when you're kind of jumping into this, that's one of the things. The other thing that I would say, as far as like, help, I'm new, I'm a new marketer in here, like what is going on? Like, why do people not understand when I have campaign reports and I'm talking about impressions and all this stuff? One great piece of advice that we can give you, and this is across the board of marketing in general, and really in anything at all, is, the first campaigns that you're going to roll out, like we'll see this a lot, where companies will come in and say, we got the new digital person, and we want you to generate leads for us and whatever. And the reality of it is that there's a lot of misunderstanding about what that is, how that happens. And so you really need to really educate, your team on what you're doing and why you're doing it, and really the business case of it, what this means. So in other words, instead of saying, yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to get 1 million impressions, and we're going to have all these shares, and all that is great. What does that mean? A lot of them a lot of manufacturers, specifically when it comes to marketing, can be very transactionally focused, as they should. But if it doesn't have a measurable impact immediately, then it's no good. Because marketing really, for the most part, has traditionally been the person in the corner room who makes flyers and spec sheets and sell sheets and organizes the trade show booths, makes the trade show booths, and whips up graphics for us and stuff like that. Not somebody who's actively out there generating leads and prospecting and developing an MQL to SQL process. That's not how it's been. Really, that line between sales and marketing is really, really tightening, and should be tightening anyways. So there is a little bit of a call. It's the old school mentality or whatever. That's it. And the reality of it is really those worlds are coming together, and that's where sometimes you can maybe be kind of caught in a tough place. I've heard a lot of times people come in and it's like, oh, I have all these plans. We're going to do this digital campaign. We're going to do that, and it's like, my gosh, I'm completely covered by like, hey, update this presentation or this slide deck, or we need this flyer for this thing over here. And it's just like, man, I want to get beyond that. That's a real challenge. And helping to sort of communicate that plan and say, no, listen, we need to be doing, we're going to be doing this digital campaign, and this is what that digital campaign means. Like, for example, we're going to do a webinar, or we're going to do, we're going to do a webinar, we're going to have some ad spend on there, and then once we have people that come into the webinar, whether they actually watch the webinar or not, we're going to hit them with some retargeting ads, and then we're going to, and just kind of sell it. Like it's okay they didn't buy immediately, but here's the bigger play. Like here's how that's all happening. The other thing that I would say too is having like the first digital campaign that you're going to do, you bring in, like go at it in baby steps, and you really have to over communicate like what you're doing and then reporting results on that. So maybe even like schedule some time. I think we've had several guests have talked about this. I remember Malika Givens, I think, talked about this when she talked about how to get organizational buy-in. That one of the things I believe she talked about is like scheduling monthly meetings to go over reports and say, hey, look, this is what we were doing. This is like, these are the results that we've gotten. And then this is what these results mean. So it can't just be like, here's a report, and look at all these numbers, and there's charts, and there's lines going this way, and that's great. You understand that, but everybody else might not. And so it's very important to be able to say, hey, here's the charts, here's all the great things, whatever. This is what this means. And overarching, like this is our goal, and this is where we're going, and here's the impact on business that we should be seeing, and here's the time. And making sure you're constantly communicating that, because that can be, there is a perception that you turn on, digital marketing, oh, we turn on ads and we do this and all these things, and boom, overnight everything happens. And you and I know that's not the case. But again, we just have to continuously sort of communicate that. Say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what this means, this is good. And even communicating when, okay, we did this over here, and actually admitting, okay, well, we did this campaign, we thought we were going to have, a really high click-through rate and generate all these leads, but the reality of it is we didn't. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay, but you need to be able to communicate that, it's not an exact science. You kind of have to kind of figure out these different things, all right? It's going to happen that every campaign and all the different things that you do, you're not going to have great results, but you learn from those and you tweak them, and just communicating, that's part of that process. And so just really, if I could recap all this, it's really just having a good understanding of how the framework of your manufacturing company, how that's laid out. Again, it could be, it's very different across the board, but a lot of them you have distributors and dealers and independent reps, and it's almost like you have two, you have sort of two people that you're marketing to. And the push-pull strategies you talk about, whether it's you're selling to that end user versus that end user saying, hey, I want to use, talking to the distributor saying, I want to use these guys' product, top-down, push-pull, that kind of thing. Then also understanding, just when you do digital campaigns, to make sure that they're measurable and you're communicating. You start with baby steps, and that you kind of lay out that foundation, and you're able to kind of continue to grow with that. So, anyways, those are just a few little tidbits, a few little things that we've heard. I can't tell you how many phone calls I've had where I've heard a lot of that. It's almost like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So anyways, I hope that this episode was helpful for you. If you have any other questions that you'd like, please reach out. We'd love to answer them for you. You can reach out at industrialsage.com/questions. We'd love to answer them. If you'd like something, a little bit more detail on a specific topic that we've covered, feel free to ask. We love to answer that all the time. And anyways, if you're listening on iTunes, we'd love a review. If you're on social media, we'd love you to share our content. If you're not on our email list, I highly encourage you to subscribe. We send out these videos to you every single week, and it's highly, highly valuable for you. It's really great content. We know this because we get feedback all the time about it. And anyways, thanks so much for watching. And I'm Danny Gonzalez, and this is Industrial Sage. One of the most important elements of developing a digital marketing strategy is figuring out your buyer personas. We have a downloadable for you that is a quick walkthrough on how to fill that out. Long story short, your buyer personas are the people who are going to be buying your product, your prospects. They could be influencers or decision makers. And figuring that out is very, very critical to figuring out what your content strategy is and how you're going to deploy that and how you're going to distribute your content. So download this. It's just a quick few slides, and you can we have some questions, and you can fill out who those target personas are, and then you can take that and help to develop your content strategy. And this actually goes into the digital marketing content planner. This can kind of feed into that. So go ahead and download it, and if you have any questions, reach out. We'd love to help you.